Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Stonesifer. I'm the meteorologist on staff with the City of Albuquerque's Air Quality Program in the Environmental Health Department. I have a bachelor's degree in meteorology from the University of Oklahoma. I spent 9 years in the National Weather Service and taking weather observations, releasing weather balloons in the upper atmosphere, and writing forecasts. And then I found a day job with the city, which is really nice. Okay, so this presentation is going to look at how the City of Albuquerque decides to issue a health alert and how alerts have changed over the years. Methods of communication are changing, and that's another topic, as well as some of the challenges that we've faced over the years. We used to issue health alerts based almost entirely on visibility. In other words, we'd look out across the metro area, and if you couldn't see the mountains from the west side or downtown, that was bad and warranted a health alert. Unfortunately, the data from our monitors wasn't immediately available, and so we learned to rely on visibility. Now we have new software that makes it easy to get instantaneous readings from our pollution monitors. It's still useful to run up to the rooftop of City Hall, though, and take a look around, because we've seen events where the smoke is concentrated along the river or on the west side of town. And it's important to have those details so you can answer questions from the public or the media. Other improvements have come about by communicating with other agencies, and more on that in just a moment. This is a satellite image that shows the smoke from the Wallow wildfire impacting Albuquerque. For many years, we looked at satellite imagery and the National Smoke Analysis out of Silver Springs, Maryland, as well as the high split model to determine where the smoke was coming from or heading toward. Now, please keep in mind it's not always as obvious as it was in this satellite image. Sometimes it's like these fires down here in Chihuahua, which are a little harder to see. Not only that, sometimes the satellite imagery goes down, and so you don't have that tool at hand. So we gather as much information as we can before issuing statements through the media and to the public. In addition to the satellite imagery and the National Smoke Analysis, we use the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's high split model. High split is great for predicting where smoke will go, as well as telling us where the air currently over Albuquerque came from. In other words, high split can help us look forward or backward. Meteorologists are on duty 24 hours at the National Weather Service and post information about current weather events, including smoke events, on their Twitter website. The National Weather Service Spot Forecast page is also a very good source of information about prescribed burning for both the current and previous days. The Southwest Area Coordination Center has a website with details on wildfires and fire behavior. We now routinely call Claudia with the Bureau of Land Management, Josh with the Forest Service, or communicate with the National Weather Service through their chat room when concerned about fires. And multi-agency conference calls are now common for both prescribed fires and wildfires. It wasn't always that way, though. When I first arrived at the AIR program almost 11 years ago, I didn't have the network of people that I have now, because smoke events were less common, less severe, and there just wasn't as much interest, or it didn't seem to be. It was the Wallow fire in June of 2011 that was the impetus for the increased coordination that we have today. The conference calls for the Wallow fire grew along with the fire itself as the Wallow fire got national attention. We had the National Weather Service, the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Southwest Area Coordination Center, air quality agencies, and public health agencies on the calls. And Pete Long from Forest Service Headquarters headed the discussions. So we gather information that we need to inform the public from conference calls and various websites. We use health alerts and other statements to inform the public. Our health alerts have changed over the years. We've switched to a more media-friendly format, and we issue health alerts earlier. If we don't have all the details, then we can update it later, say in an hour or two, after we've had a chance to consider all the data and discuss with other agencies. If possible, we like to give the public a heads up the afternoon before. The newer alerts are focused on advice for those with health conditions and leave most of the meteorological details for media interviews. So here we have two examples. In the old format, you have to look through the text, read through the text to find the end time. Whereas in the new format, both the beginning and end times are in bold print. There is only one section of bulleted information in the new format, and the paragraphs are kept short. Also in 2004, the advisory was issued at 10 a.m., whereas with the new format, it can be issued immediately upon arrival at work, say 7 a.m., and then updated later as we have more information. And that's critical because it gives us time to analyze the data and contact other agencies before putting details into the alert. Traditionally, health alerts were disseminated via the mass media, and they still are. The city now also takes advantage of social media. The 311 call center has brought some relief in terms of reducing the number of phone calls we have to handle. When the phones are ringing off the hooks, it's very hard to focus on analyzing data, communicating with other agencies, and creating an alert for dissemination. One idea that we've bandied about internally is setting up a distribution list to send the health alerts directly to the public via email, and people would then be able to sign up for such notices on the city's website. Over the years, we've had to overcome some challenges. The first was a problem that created confusion. The EPA has a website, Airnow.gov, that purportedly shows current air quality levels. The Airnow formula uses data over the past 24 hours to calculate air quality. It works great for California and the East Coast, where widespread industrial pollution events develop gradually over the course of days and weeks due to certain meteorological conditions. It doesn't work so well for the West, where smoke can come in quickly, stay for a few hours, and then leave. So here's an example of what Airnow's current conditions map looks like. The yellow over Southern California means moderate air quality. And the orange area, it doesn't look so orange here, it looks almost more brown, but it's within the yellow area. That's unhealthy for sensitive groups. Sensitive groups meaning people with asthma, chronic bronchitis, and other respiratory cardiovascular conditions. So during the Walla wildfires, these yellows and oranges didn't show up for hours after the smoke had hit Albuquerque. And we got phone calls from residents asking us, why is the Airnow website continuing to show good air quality for hours after they could see and smell thick smoke? That kind of confusion upsets people. So fine particulate levels got really high really fast, but only stayed that way for several hours at a time. In other words, because of the formula the Airnow website uses, Airnow is designed more for longer-term pollution events, not so much for the short-term, rapidly changing events that we have here in Albuquerque. The first workaround to the Airnow problem that has come up is that the New Mexico Department of Health has established a visibility method that is helpful until air quality agencies can issue statements with more precise information. A second solution that has come about with new software, we used to have to wait an hour or two to get the data from our monitors. Now we have software that makes it easy to get instantaneous readings. And that will help not only in answering questions from the public and the media, but also in making decisions to issue alerts. Also, the air quality program is developing a web application that will show air quality data. While not instantaneous and not ready just yet, it's better than Airnow.gov for the pollution events that we have in this part of the country. This is the 531 visibility method that directs people of different ages and health conditions about what actions they should take to protect their health during a smoke event. And you can get this at nmtracking.org/fire. Another challenge that we faced is the complexities of forecasting smoke. One problem is that information about how many acres burn today and the intensity of fire behavior is usually forthcoming after the workday is over. Another problem is forecasting vertical motions of air, which over a distance and time greatly affect how concentrated the smoke is by the time it reaches Albuquerque. In other words, settling air tends to concentrate smoke in the Rio Grande Valley, whereas a rising air mass will disperse it. Unfortunately, vertical motions are difficult to forecast if there's not a high or low pressure system nearby. So issuing alerts ahead of time is quite a challenge, and rather than waiting until the smoke hits Albuquerque, we needed a communication method that got around the uncertainty inherent in the forecast process. The Smoke Watch is a statement that allows us to inform the media and the public about what we're seeing and what may happen when confidence simply isn't high enough to warrant a health alert. Here's an example of what a smoke watch would look like. Notice that there's no begin or end time, as you would see in a health alert. Rather, it's just a heads up for those who are concerned about these events. Since we have a relatively small jurisdiction, the City of Albuquerque's air quality program can't issue a statement covering a broad chunk of the state. Smoke from a distant fire will either hit Albuquerque or it won't. So our air agency is in a relatively unique situation insofar as more meteorological skill is needed than for some other air agencies. 10 years ago, alerts were issued in an unorganized manner and nearly always as a reaction. Today, we're more organized and can sometimes warn people ahead of time. We also have an internal group that meets regularly to discuss improvements to our procedures for issuing health alerts. So more improvements will be forthcoming.